From the very moment that Alfred Hitchcock's film Psycho reached the box offices, it was a hit. It startled and shocked viewers from around the world. No one had seen such racy, violent graphic scenes in a movie before. Because the film Psycho was one of the first films to showcase original scenes that were virtually untouched by cinema at this time, it may be considered one of the most revolutionary and iconic films. Marion Crane is a girl who works at an office in Phoenix, Arizona, and isn't satisfied financially because she isn't able to afford getting married to her boyfriend. When given the opportunity to transport $40,000 to a bank for her manager, she decides to take the money and run. During her escape, she finds herself at the Bates Motel in the middle of nowhere, where she meets Norman, the property manager. Norman Bates ends up being a little psychotic and seems to be controlled by his mother. Eventually, he ends up murdering her in the shower, and her whole family and her managers find themselves searching everywhere for her. Eventually, they discover that Norman ended up murdering his mother and has been keeping her in the basement this whole time, and they soon solve the mystery of what happened to Marion Crane. She was murdered by Mr. Bates. Alfred Hitchcock uses several different methods and techniques in this film in order to build suspense. One of these methods is the use of silence and the use of violins. The music in this film really helps to set the mood throughout different scenes. For example, at the very beginning of the film opens with a very cheerful, happy scene of Marion and her boyfriend, and the violins are used in a way that conveys cheerful, positive music. Whereas only a few scenes later, you are caught off guard by the screams of violins and the screeching and the buildup that's created by that effect. Another style that Alfred uses is that he will follow a character with his camera, and he will continue to film that character as they move throughout a setting until bang, something happens in the film and it catches the viewer off guard. Another theme that he uses is, I think, blurred focus a lot. He kind of uses like a dreamy, dreary effect to some of his scenes. For example, when Marion is driving in the car in the rain and she is just completely disillusioned by the storm and by the fact that she has just committed this awful crime. And the camera is kind of going in, out of focus on her, and the cars that are passing her, and the rain on the windshield. And it really gives you this sense of just impending doom. Another method that Alfred uses to build suspense. And last but not least, he has a very effective use of flashbacks to different scenes to give you an idea of the danger that is at hand, and to really give the viewer a scope of everything that's going on in the movie. Alfred Hitchcock's film Psycho really revolutionized the way that horror films were made after this point in time. It was one of the most revolutionary, groundbreaking films of its time for many reasons. One of those reasons being the sheer shock value of the scenes that he portrayed in his movie. There was such a level of graphic violence in his films that really, especially this one, that really weren't touched that much by the film industry. For example, there were even certain countries when this movie first came out that cut out certain parts of the shower scene and different scenes in the movie just because of how graphic and violent they were. For example, the blood going down the bathtub to, draining out of the bathtub when he murdered Marion in the shower. That scene has such a graphic shock value for its day and age, and it is a very historical scene that many people who haven't even seen the movie know about. Another thing is that Alfred really revolutionized the way the music was used in order to build suspense. And many people consider his film Psycho to be more of a thriller and a suspenseful film than an actual horror movie. Alfred revolutionized the film industry because he took normal scenes, like scenes that nothing is even happening on the screen yet, and he is able to build that suspense and that fear just through the use of silence, the use of violins, and these premonitions that make you know that something big is about to happen. His film just completely changed the game. In conclusion, Alfred Hitchcock's film Psycho is a film that utilized the use of sound and silence to create suspense in a movie unlike any other film had done before. The shock value and the way that this film was made is something that viewers had never seen before this film. It can be regarded as one of the most creative and legendary films ever made.